Good morning, Bills fans. Welcome to Monday Morning Breakdown. I'm John Murphy, sitting next to Chris Brown, Bills Insider from BuffaloBills.com. We welcome you whether you're joining us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. We do this every Monday at 10 a.m., kind of breakdown, Monday Morning Breakdown the Bills game from the day before.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. We got a segment coming up for Crowd Noise, your thoughts on yesterday's game. We'll take a look around the NFL. But we start with looking at the Bills game, Chris, an entertaining fourth quarter, almost a great comeback. The Bills lose to the Dolphins by 4, 21-17, and it all came down to the final drive of the game for the Bills. They got the ball with 2.5 minutes left, no timeouts, starting at their 10, and this is where I thought Josh Allen shone, making a great pass right there to Robert Foster. He kept it going almost all the way down the field.
Yeah, got some help from LaShawn McCoy, who made a couple of people miss, when he had to check it down to him. And then, you had another pass here to McKenzie, who gets out of bounds, gave him an extra play before the 2-minute warning, and then he used his legs sometimes and really got away from people. And I got to tell you, all day long, he had a chance to outrun just about everybody. And here's the last play of the game, throwing across his body to the end zone. I mean, yes, it's underthrown.
Yes, it was.
That's a catchable ball.
Yeah, I've looked at it again and again since yesterday's game. It's catchable. It would have been a difficult catch. Josh underthrew it. It was a wobbly pass. And if you look where Charles Clay starts from, he was deep, almost near the back line of the end zone, trying to run to the front of the end zone, run to the goal line. And don't just look at me. I'm telling you, that would have been an incredible catch for him to come from where he was. And absolutely broken down play, a wobbly pass.
Yeah, it's a wobbler. I'm not going to debate that.
But it would have been a difficult catch. That's all I'm saying.
Hits him in both his hands. So, to me, that's a catchable ball.
Okay.
For a professional,
it's
a catchable
as well.
ball.
And they've waited a couple of years for Charles Clay to make a big impact play like that. That was his chance. Didn't come through. But it was a difficult throw. There was an earlier throw on that drive to Zay Jones on the sideline, went down to the 5-yard line.
One that got reviewed.
It got reviewed, and it got overturned, which kind of surprised me. If the call on the field says catch, you need indisputable visual evidence to overturn that. I don't think that evidence was there.
Yeah, I don't have any expectations with officials anymore, positive ones anyway. So as soon as I saw that the ball did make contact with the ground, I knew what the officials were going to do. I'm so used to being disappointed by officials that I knew where that was headed, so I just kind of prepared myself for the worst because that's inevitably what happens.
I heard Gene Steratore on CBS broadcast talk about how he didn't survive the ground. Zay Jones didn't survive the ground. They took that out of the rule book this year. You don't have to survive the ground, so that's totally irrelevant. I agree with you. The officiating drives you crazy. That's not why the Bills lost, but it certainly didn't help yesterday. Let's get to 4-down territory as we look at 4 of the big issues in yesterday's Bills' 4-point loss to the Miami Dolphins. Let's start with the rookie, Josh Allen. We've said it over and over again. This season is about his development. I thought Josh Allen took a step forward again for the second consecutive week in his development, Chris, with the throws he was making, obviously running for all that yardage, 135 yards. He shatters his own record for rushing yards by a quarterback. And I like the way he was making decisions. I think there's still room for improvement when it comes to spending an extra quarter of a second in the pocket and forcing the ball into coverage rather than run the ball. But, this is the learning process. This is the growth mindset that they're in with Josh Allen right now.
In my mind, yesterday was validation the Bills have their quarterback. This is the guy.
Wow.
I think people want to see more, and I get it. But with the way that he competed in this game, the way he kept the entire offense upbeat when things were going wrong, I'm talking to guys in the locker room after this game, and they're saying, oh, yeah, he's the guy. He is our leader. The guy can make a play whenever he wants. He's a playmaker. He's a special physical breed of talent. And, the Dolphins did not have a linebacker who could run with him. They could have spied him all day long. It didn't matter. Yeah. They didn't have anybody. He could have run for 200 yards if he wanted to yesterday. And I know you want him to stay in the pocket an extra half a second and make those passing plays. I believe those will come in time as he sees more and more looks at defensive coverages and has a quicker recognition of what he's looking at. We got to remember, the guy's, 7 starts?
Yeah.
So I think by the time he's got 16 starts, more of those plays will be coming from the pocket than with his legs, but the Bills have their quarterback. You heard it from me.
I agree with your assessment of how he will get better. I do think this, and I've talked about his competitive fire for months now, and I thought that was, again, on display yesterday. The challenge for the Buffalo coaching staff will be to channel that competitive nature, that hard work ethic into film study, into becoming accustomed with the offense. It's not going to happen on a week-to-week basis, but I do think there's room for improvement there. Making better decisions to get rid of the ball, not take all the hits he has taken, not run as many times as he has, as productive as that's been, because they're kind of an incomplete inconsistent offense right now with much room for improvement.
Right, but listening to him after the game, I mean, he was gassed. I mean, just from all the running that he had to do to buy time, but he consistently bought time so he could make plays, whether it was with his feet or through the air. And I thought his passing game, albeit minus a couple of inaccurate throws, was pretty good yesterday. It wasn't great. It was pretty good. And it was very telling to me that the only things that he was talking about were all the plays he missed after the game. And you better believe that he is going to be going over those 2 and 3 times in Monday film session today as they review the game. And he was beating himself up for those. He doesn't mind shouldering the load. And I think that's maybe one of the most important things that you need to have in a quarterback in terms of the intangibles, and he has that in spades.
All right, we're in 4-down territory as we look at 4 aspects of Buffalo's game yesterday. Let's get the second down. Let's talk about the Buffalo Bills defense. A shaky start, a 75-yard scoring drive by the Dolphins off the opening kickoff, but the Bills eventually rebounded. They held the Dolphins to 175 total yards on the game, the fewest under this coaching staff, under Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier. They were outstanding. A lot more blitzes worked into the game on the Dolphins' passing attack, especially early on. And the Bills were right in Ryan Tannehill's face for most of the afternoon. That 75-yard scoring drive was kind of funny, Chris, because there weren't any big plays in that drive.
No, the Dolphins just nickel and dime.
Yeah, they're biting off little small chunks and finally got in the end zone. And the red zone was a big problem for the Bills' defense yesterday.
Right. So, you look at that 75-yard drive to open the game. It's the first opening drive they've given up for a touchdown since week 1 against Baltimore. And you're like, oh, boy, what do we got here? But then they give up 100 total yards the rest of the game. The problem is the Dolphins got handed short fields due to penalties that were questionable in nature and due to some special teams miscues, which I know we'll address in a little bit here. But the bottom line was this. The defensive effort overall was solid. I don't know if it was spectacular, but they got takeaways. They had a good blitz scheme, rushing safeties off the edge in a delayed fashion. I think Raphael Bush got to the quarterback twice, got a sack, got called for a penalty on another questionable call. And then Jordan Poyer got a chance to rush. Micah Hyde got a chance to rush. Hyde obviously had the takeaway, so 4 straight games now with interception, at least one. But yes, the red zone defense was the issue. The Dolphins going into this game, 31st in the league in red zone touchdown percentage at about 41%. They go 3 of 3 in this game in the red zone. They had 9 red zone touchdowns all season. They get 3 yesterday.
Crazy. The numbers don't always add up. We'll get to third down now as we move through third down territory. And typically you can look at total net yards and figure out who's going to win that game. Yesterday, Bills had like a 2.5 times advantage over Miami's offense. Bills with 415 total net yards, and the Dolphins had 175, as we said. So how did they lose? Here's how they lost. The penalties, which you referenced, some of them bad calls, but 13 penalties, way too many penalties.
For 120-something yards.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And the special teams miscues, right? Stephen Hauschka, this is an extra point. He hasn't done that in years. He hasn't done it yet for the Buffalo Bills until yesterday. Hauschka missed a long field goal, a 55-yarder. And this play set up Miami with a short field. The muff punt, it went off the left arm, it appeared, of Isaiah McKenzie. The Dolphins recovered at about the 36-yard line, started from there and got a touchdown out of that. The special teams problems were a big issue for the Bills in yesterday's game, which is why they, that yardage advantage they had in total net yards didn't really matter as much when you looked at the scoreboard.
Points off turnovers for the Dolphins against the Bills in their last 9 meetings, 0. They got 7 yesterday on the muff punt. And, you look at the end of the day when it's a 4-point game, just not good enough. Not good enough. This was the worst call of the day. The pass interference on Matt Milano down the left sideline. He's got inside position. He's looking back for the football, and he gets called for pass interference. I mean, he has a right to the space just as much as Gesicki does. Gesicki puts his hand on Milano because he's got inside position, and he knows he can't get to the football, and they call PI on Milano. Just horrendous. And then this one, okay, maybe he kind of swipes at the leg a little bit, but is that worthy of a flag? My God, I don't think so.
It was a celebration, not really a taunt. I viewed it as a celebration.
Yeah, he's not looking at him, taunting him, but my goodness. I mean, just horribly over-officiated, and surprise, surprise, it's Sean Hockley. I mean, like father, like son here. I mean, classic over-officiating. His crew assesses almost 3 times the average of penalty yardage per game. Looked it up.
Yeah.
It's egregious.
He's one of the new referees in the NFL this year.
Just done with it. Just done.
Fourth down. A pretty good game for Zay Jones. Targeted 9 times, caught 4 passes, a couple of big catches, especially down the stretch. It's clear Zay Jones is the favorite and likeliest target for Josh Allen, especially when plays break down.
Yeah, I mean, he's the go-to guy right now. I don't think there's any question about that. I think it's because Josh has faith that Jones is going to do the right thing 98% of the time. The one time, unfortunately, he didn't yesterday was when he did not sit down in the back of the end zone. Otherwise, they would have had 3 touchdown plays together. Instead, they just have 2, but he had a couple of key third downs. This was a long third down play that he converted for a first down, 22-yard reception down the left sideline where he's really got to toe the line. So I really think the thing that's most encouraging to me is I saw Zay Jones at the Senior Bowl, and it was basically the Zay Jones and Cooper Kupp show down there, and I really thought he was going to take off very quickly in the NFL. It took him a little bit longer, but I think his game is very quickly reaching critical mass here. Here's the 2-point conversion that he also had on the now route. Just a solid game by him, targeted 9 times, which I think speaks to how much Josh looks for him. Really, I'm excited about where his career can go, especially come 2019.
Okay, that's 4 down territory, and now let's hear from you. We want to get your comments, your reaction to yesterday's loss, where the Bills go from here. Time now for crowd noise as we get your comments on yesterday's game. That's a bad imitation of crowd noise from you, Chris.
I didn't have anything else.
All right, let's go to Twitter first. Phil tweets in, "There's no such thing as Josh Allen running too much. He was incredible." Disagree, Phil. There is. He's exposing himself to injuries. He runs because he's all they have offensively, really the only reliable thing they have. But moving forward into the rest of the season and especially in the next year, they've got to find a better, I think, a better mix of runs and passes. They've got to get him to sit in the pocket, look downfield. He's got the arm to force it into tight windows, and I think that's what they'd like to do eventually. Yeah, I think he can run too much. I do.
I don't think he ran too much yesterday. He only ran 9 times, which was, the same amount he ran last week, and nobody could catch him. Nobody could keep up with him.
They'll catch him, and they'll hurt him sometimes.
Well, but they didn't yesterday, and they couldn't. They didn't have a linebacker that could keep up with him. I cannot recall.
You can't live playing offense like that.
Well, no.
Over the long term.
But for where you are right now, with the development of your quarterback, who
you don't
still
want to be
doesn't,
where you are right now. You want to be
still
better.
doesn't completely trust what he sees.
That's right.
And trusts his legs more than what he's seeing at times. And he's faster than any linebacker the Dolphins have. Did he take a big hit yesterday anytime he ran?
He will take a big hit if he
He didn't yesterday, though.
He will.
Because they couldn't catch him. They had to put Minka Fitzpatrick on it. He still couldn't catch him.
He will take a big hit.
He couldn't get
That's
him. He
not
ran
a
out of bounds.
sustainable model for an offense.
I'm not saying it is,
NFL.
but he ran out of bounds. He slid. He was more disciplined in how he ran and how he finished runs. He avoided big hits. He ran 9 times, had 135 yards. I mean, he counted for 366 of the 415 total net yards of offense. If there's nobody on the field that can catch him, I don't care. He can run as long as he's smart with how he finishes the run. Running out of bounds when people are closing in on him and sliding. He did both of those things.
Bill is right. He was incredible, but that's not a sustainable model for an offense. It's just not. They won't be able to sustain that down the road. I'm not talking about next week. I'm not talking about yesterday's game. I'm talking about long term. He's got to get better at staying in the pocket and throwing the ball downfield and not leaving down the road.
Guy's got to get open too, and he's got to trust what he's seeing.
Yes,
and,
they got to get better at receiver, no question, and tight end and running back, all over the place. All right, crowd knows we listen into some of your comments. Let's go to Facebook from Joseph Nash. What do you make of McCoy's continuing lack of production? Seems like more than a slump. Fair question, Joseph. Yeah. I don't know what to do with that. Look, you got an offensive line with new pieces virtually every week now, right? Searle started yesterday. They got some snaps for Ike Butker. That does not help. But I do think that there's more to it than that. I don't know that Shady has run the ball. Other than the Jets game, he hasn't run effectively, and I don't think he's run the ball the way he did in the first couple of years here. Something to keep an eye on, I think, down the rest of the season.
I think it's less on him. It's more on the line. I mean, we're watching these highlights right here. Guys are making initial contact with him before he even gets to the line of scrimmage. I mean, in the few instances where he did get past the line of scrimmage, he made some plays for them. But too often, he's getting hit behind the line, or there is initial contact at the line with a guy who is completely free and open to make a hit on him. Not some guy that's trying to reach into a gap to make an arm tackle. The guy's standing there waiting for him. And that's happened far too often this year. And you say, well, how come Josh Allen can run so much? Well, because 7 defenders have their back turned to him. When Shady gets handed the ball, everybody's converging on him. It's a much different scenario. I put it less on LaShawn and a lot more on an offensive line that has had a problem establishing the line of scrimmage for most of the season.
I agree. All right, one more bit of crowd noise as we get your comments on yesterday's game from Facebook. Mike Blutarski, Senator Blutarski. If Bean addresses the wide receiver and offensive line in the draft, This team is a playoff team in a heartbeat. That's pretty optimistic, but yeah, those are the targeted areas. I might flip them too, put offensive line ahead of wide receiver. I guarantee you that's what they'll be looking to do in free agency and the draft, address both of those positions. There are other places too. Offensive line, obviously we talked about, but tight end, I think they need somebody.
An upgrade.
And they're going to need to look at running backs too, Chris.
Yeah,
I think 30-year-old running backs.
You draft the running back in the middle rounds that you like, that you think fits your offensive scheme. I think that could work very well. We know the Patriots and the Chiefs are two teams that have a history of doing that with great success. And, I think offensive line and wide receiver, as you said, not only in the draft, but in free agency as well. You need proven weapons at receiver to come in that can help Josh Allen right away. You can't have somebody coming in operating on a learning curve. You need a proven performer that can give you instant production, instant reliability for your passing game, and you need offensive linemen that can get down and dirty and win at the line of scrimmage every single week, because that has been a colossal problem for this offense all year long.
All right, that's our talk with you and crowd noise. Let's take a look around the rest of the league now as we get into 2-minute offense. A quick look at some of the other games. Start with the Baltimore Ravens and Atlanta. Lamar Jackson, with his third start, had this 13-yard touchdown run. Atlanta held to 131 total yards in this game, and the Ravens sacked Matt Ryan 3 times. Baltimore's won 3 in a row. They're now a half game behind. That's all, a half game behind first place Pittsburgh in their division. Baltimore with a 26-16 win over the Atlanta Falcons.
Taking a look next at the Texans and the Browns. Texans have won 8 straight. Here's a rollout by Watson, looking in the end zone, finds Jordan Thomas for the touchdown. Baker Mayfield trying to bring him back from a 10-0 deficit, but picked off by Zach Cunningham. He's going to find the left sideline, and he's got a convoy with him. He's going to go all the way. Defensive touchdown for the Texans. They've won 9 in a row.
Lambeau Field, the Arizona Cardinals down and out, right? Not on this day. Josh Rosen gets the ball, game tied at 17, 4.5 minutes left, rolls to his right, fires it down to Larry Fitzgerald. That was 3rd and 23. Sets up this field goal right here by Gonzalez, and it gives the Cardinals the lead. But Green Bay comes back. Mason Crosby has a chance here to tie it up with 2 seconds left, and he misses. The Packers lose it. They drop to 4-7-1, and they fire Coach Mike McCarthy.
Chiefs and Raiders in an AFC West battle. Pat Mahomes still doing what he's been doing all season long. Finds Travis Kelce for a pair of touchdowns. He was pretty tight end happy on this day against the Raiders. Up 26-16 at the end of the third quarter. Rolls out and finds tight end Demetrius Harris for another touchdown. He's got 41 on the season. Chiefs win.
Foxborough, the Patriots and the Vikings. Tom Brady does what he does. He hits Josh Gordon there for the 24-yard touchdown pass. Fullback James Devlin, 2 touchdowns. The Patriots win at 24-10. They're 9-3 in this season.
Jets fans are saying Jets stands for just end the season. They're up 16-0, but the Titans get a touchdown on a second effort by Derrick Henry. And then with 36 seconds left, Marcus Mariota finds Corey Davis. Jets blow a 16-0 lead, lose 26-22.
Sunday Night Football, the Steelers with a 23-7 halftime lead, third quarter. Chargers get that interception in the end zone. Then they get this spectacular punt return by Desmond King. 75-yard punt return for a touchdown to make it even closer. Fourth quarter went back and forth a little bit, and then finally Los Angeles kicker Badgley hits this game-winning field goal, and the Chargers win it 33-30 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kind of a shocking finish there.
Desmond King, he was breathing heavy on that one.
Yeah, he is a good player.
Do I have the angle? He's not a burner, but no, man, he's really good on returns. And I saw him at the Senior Bowl last year. He was impressive too. I mean, not the classic cover corner that, is a burner, but man, he's good.
All right, let's take a look ahead at the upcoming week for the Bills. One thing they have to be concerned with now is the center position. Russell Bodine left the game with a pretty serious ankle injury. They have Ryan Groy, and it looks like Groy may have to finish the season for the Bills there.
Yeah, there's a good chance of that. His leg was all wrapped up after the game, and we'll get an update from Coach McDermott today when he addresses the media, but it wouldn't shock me if he gets one of those week-to-week designations based on how he looked afterwards.
So the Bills will deal with that, and they'll deal with the Jets coming in here as the Bills move into the final 4 games of the season. 3 division opponents, 3 games at home. This one, we may finally get the matchup, Sam Darnold against Josh Allen, that we were looking for about a month ago in New York.
This was the target date that the Jets medical staff had set for Darnold to return to the lineup. He had a good chance of playing yesterday, but they decided to wait 1 more week. So, yeah, we'll have Darnold and Allen squaring off against one another for, I think, what many people hope is a budding rivalry between the 2 quarterbacks. And they're very good friends, too. Yeah. So, they trained a lot together during the pre-draft process, got to know each other working under Jordan Palmer, getting ready for the combine and all of that stuff. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting head-to-head here this week for
All
sure.
right. Chris, you're going to join us on One Bills Live later today. 1
I will
o'clock,
be there.
believe. Chris will be with Steve Tasker and I, One Bills Live on MSG and WGR Sports Radio 550. That's coming up later today, noon to 3. We thank you for joining us. We're here every Monday at 10 a.m. Make sure you join us next week on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. It's Bill's Monday Morning Breakdown every Monday at 10. We'll see you next week. Thanks.